Here at World of Frozen, the world's first and largest Frozen themed land here in Hong Kong Disneyland. And we're all very excited because this project took quite a while to develop and build.
Yeah, it took us total 7 years in the
and
making.
Today is the day that we're opening it, and we're very excited. Everybody's just so energized and happy, and it's just so wonderful to see. We're lucky with the weather as well, so it can't be better. And we're very proud that we have you, from faraway kingdoms here in the kingdom of Arendelle, seeing what we have been up to all those 7 years. And of course, we hope you like what you see.
And share a lot of Easter eggs that we don't share with other KOL or media. So you're here for a treat.
Of course, we're here in Arendelle because we're celebrating Summer Snow Day. You're here on this very special day. I don't know if it was a coincidence, but this is the national holiday of Arendelle, Summer Snow Day, where we commemorate that Anna saved her sister Elsa by an act of true love. So that's nice that you guys are here, because there's a lot of extra festivities in Arendelle. Wandering Oakens Deep in the Forest actually made a whole Summer Snow Day sleigh ride for us to enjoy. So, in other words, a wonderful celebratory storyline that we took from the Epcot concept. And I'll actually talk to you guys because you are very knowledgeable about Disney. So I don't feel afraid to use certain terms because you know exactly what I'm talking about. But in the original Frozen Ever After ride for Epcot, we already had the story conceit for Summer Snow Day. And in this beautiful immersive land where Frozen Ever After, the new version, is the anchor attraction, that story conceit kind of just spread out over the whole land. And it was really fun to kind of work with that story conceit and think up of new things that, what would happen in Arendelle, but it's Summer Snow Day. And I think the highlight of that is, of course, is the story behind the Wandering Oakens ride, but also our Playhouse in the Woods, that is our little theater, if you will, with the live actors experience. So.
And to commemorate Summer Snow Day, our team also have designed this snow flower that you can see on our name tag. Of course, the sunflower representing Anna, and the snowflake is representing Elsa. And it's stylized in a way that and combined to celebrate the sisterly love between Anna and Elsa as well. So you can see this logo everywhere on our bunting, as well as some of the Summer Snow Day posters, so look out for that.
Good to see you.
Hi, Michael.
Welcome to Hong Kong, and welcome to the Kingdom of Arendelle. So what do you think of the world of Frozen?
We love it. Beautiful. It's like walking in the movies.
It really is. And, that is really the goal. Of course, we're working with Imagineering to create this wonderful space, but what we wanted to do is make sure that at the World of Frozen was the guest was at the central character of their own Frozen story. Well, have fun, and thank you so much for all your support. Thank you. And welcome to Hong Kong.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
So here we're in the starting point that most people will probably see when they enter the land, because our main entry is actually there. A new entry we created underneath the train tracks. And then they arrive here on the Arendelle side of the land. The land is split into two halves, right? With the lake in the center. We have the Arendelle village side, and then we have the forest side on the other side. The most offerings are on this side, but there are some quintessential key offerings on the other side as well. And it's flanked by this beautiful fountain. We call it Friendship Fountain. It's a village fountain, but Elsa has decorated it with her permafrost decoration because of the festivities. And at night, actually, it will come to life. There's a musical cue on our BGM track, and little sparkles will start to appear, and then it disappears again. And it's just something magical, as if her magic is still captured inside. We're not advertising it at all. It's just a little piece of magic that you happen to see when you walk past, and creating memories.
And like Michelle said, the Friendship Fountain snowflake will come to life at night. Like Elsa's magic is captured inside. And actually the music cue, for the first time we tried to tie it in to the BGM as well. So it's like a nice musical accompaniment together to the BGM that we recorded in London.
So here we're on the, like I said, on the village side. We have multiple offerings here. Northern Delights is our bakery, confectionery, and merchandise shop. A lot of the architecture here that you see is inspired by the movie, but not necessarily seen in the movie. Obviously, we have the Arendelle Castle that's very iconic, and the Ice Palace and Oaken's Cabin. But to create our village and to make the buildings really fit in a way that I thought created charm, nostalgia, and a welcoming feeling, I think what this land does really well is it calms people down in a way. People spend quite a long time here that we have noticed already from our previews. But it sort of like calms people down, and I think that's partly due to the view. It's also due to like the water, the waterfall and the fountain. Those things really unconsciously do that. And then the architecture just looks charming. It's like human scale. And I think, especially for this region where we're in Hong Kong, there's Shenzhen, a huge city next to Hong Kong. It's all these big metropolitan cities with skyscrapers, which are unique and amazing. But I think for the audience here, coming to Hong Kong Disneyland, this will feel like they're really transported to another part of the world. So
we're
really
telling
happy about
story from a visual point of view, like with architecture and special effect and lighting. And we also try to tell story with music, we just mentioned, and also your senses. So when you enter the land from Fantasyland into World of Frozen, you can actually smell the wood and pine wood somewhere. And then when you enter into Northern Delight, you can smell actually pastry as well as that cinnamon smell there. So you need to pay attention with your senses as well.
Right. Let's
Yeah.
walk towards into the
wanna
village.
go in?
I don't think we might have time. Of course. Yeah.
This is a little nerdy, but I'm a big fan of John Hench and his
Uh-huh.
color theory.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if you had to do anything to adapt the color palette from the film in order to make it work with Hong Kong's lighting, the sun here, and also to match with the background.
Right. So the movie, depending on which movie you watch or the shorts, the color philosophy of it kind of slightly changes. For example, in Frozen 2, of course, if you look at it, has the autumn colors versus the cooler colors, but also the Arendelle village looks much more brown in Frozen 2 than it does in the first one. And then in the Christmas short, the colors skew towards the holiday season, right? Green and bright red. So we looked at all of that. In the end, we went for a blend of colorful houses, but important was to, and I always call it unscientifically, graying them down. Because every house has a unique color scheme, but what you want to prevent is that all the houses are sort of like fighting for attention. It needs to work as a whole. So every house has a unique color scheme, but then we're sort of like adding almost like a gray to the mix. And what that does is sort of like starts to blend the colors all together so that all the separate houses like work as a symbiosis rather than as an independent, independent houses, if you will. So that's what we applied here.
Thank you.
So he did that so brilliantly. He focused guests on where to go. So Main Street, of course, is the best example of that. But in World of Frozen, try to do the same, where the clock tower is the entrance of our e-ticket attraction, and then it's a tall spire. When you walk back out of the shop, when you rode the ride, then our candy shop actually has a spire, so that is your focal point. When you go over the bridge towards the forest, then the tallest part of the mountain there is your focal point with the cabin. And walking back from the forest into the land, it's again the spire of the candy shop. So there's always like a vertical element that sort of like, creates focus on where to go as you approach these different areas in the land. And, as we look at the architecture, one thing that is interesting to mention is our Golden Crocus Inn. That facade is a lot of activity going on here. That facade has a color scheme that's based back to color, by the way.
Yeah.
Color scheme that's based on the dresses, coronation dresses that Anna and Elsa wear in the film. Elsa is on the left-hand side with her purple dress, and then Anna with her green and yellow dress. So that's a little, backstory there. And then you see the entrance in the center. It's like two facades, and then there's like one door in the middle. Kind of looks strange when you see it at first. Like, what's that? Well, that is when we were coming up with new structures to populate the village with. And we went to Norway, as the film team did as well. I saw in the city of Bergen these row of houses. You know, you can see, if you haven't been there, you can Google those red houses that are in a row. And there's alleyways in between the houses that the houses are kind of like built over. And it looks like there's two buildings sharing one entry door. I thought that was so charming and so unique. So, and what?
Why don't we head in?
Yeah.
And then
So I thought that was really unique. And in Norway, you actually not go into a building, you go into an alleyway. But I thought the design feature was very interesting, so we made it actually the entrance to our restaurant.
you can take a closer look up here at the
So
giant
here's, you know,
ceiling.
it's at first people think, well, that's odd, but it's actually existing in the world, in Norway. But this is the entry area of the restaurant, and maybe you wanna.
Yeah, it's the best restaurant in Arendelle. So the food offering here is all Norwegian, Scandinavian dishes that you can find. And if you actually turn back here in the balcony, we have added the kitty that Olaf was holding in Olaf's Frozen Adventure up there. And he will also have a mouse sound every now and then. So on the top in the balcony, that's really the owner's office and his living room as well.
Yeah,
So-
that little cat was kind of like a late ad. He'll meow also.
Yeah.
And I'm a cat lover, so I love to put cats in projects. Disneyland's Fantasy Fair has little Figaro that I love to put in there as well. So I'm happy that we added a cat to the project.
Yeah.
Everything's better than cats.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes the world better with cats.
Yeah.
It's very nicely hidden.
Yeah.
I looked up there and I was like, oh.
Yeah,
that's
it's
a cat.
you know, it's something that's there, and you might happen
People
to see
can
it or
spot it.
maybe not. But it's not a problem if you miss it.
All
but
the
if
better
you
you do see it.
if
Yeah.
you do see it, it's charming.
Yeah.
Uh,
And on the left, we have the royal portrait of Anna and Elsa. And up the stairs is the royal dining room. Because the restaurant is so good here, even the royal family would come here and dine. So up there you see the door leading to the dining room on the left. And on the wall, to show the love to the royal family, the owner actually put all these royal paintings of their childhood on the wall as well.
Yeah, and that, the story concedes that in a village restaurant, there's like royalty references. It's something that's very common in Europe, right? Like you go to a British pub and it might be close to Windsor Castle and they have like a royal crest that they are supplying, the blueberry juice or so to the Windsor Castle, and therefore they get like this sort of like appointment of the royal family, like you are part of our circle of suppliers, and that's sort of like the story conceit behind the restaurant. This is the best food in town, and sometimes the royals come over and they enjoy one of our wonderful dishes here, and that's why there is a, sort of like an homage to them in this restaurant. Of course, we as normal people
We
cannot
dine in the
dine
ground
in
floor.
that room,
Yeah.
but it's still nice to see that that they can go there.
Yeah.
So on the side of the restaurant is where the dining rooms are. They're smaller scale rooms. Really try to keep as much of the sort of like cozy feeling as possible. Obviously, we need to hit a certain amount of people that can dine here, but sort of like separating the spaces so that it's not like one grand space. We have Captain Matthias there, a reference to Frozen 2. But a nice little thing to point out also, since you guys are very familiar with Disney parks, is a little reference to Epcot's Royal Summer House. In the Norway Pavilion, there's the log cabin with the red shutters, which was originally, it's still there. It's the Deathly House in Norway that I used as inspiration for the Royal Summer House when we built that. And I thought, like, it would be fun to kind of show that here. So this painting that I painted kind of places the house, rather than in an Epcot setting, of course, it places it in a more natural setting. This is the Royal Summer House itself. This is the Wandering Reindeer shop. And then in the back, I painted a little version of the Arendelle Castle, as if the Royal Summer House is somewhere like far away in the fjords. So it's kind of like a nod to the project that basically started this project as well.
Yeah.
So
So that's our clock tower. It's in the heart of the Arendelle village. So every full hour there is a musical chime. Do you want to build a snowman? That our team put together after studying what all these clocks sounds like in Northern Europe. And as you see here, this the Ice Palace. That's the destination that you will go up to when you enter into Frozen Ever After and board the beautiful boat. Then Elsa, you will go into Elsa's Ice Palace. When we're making all this ice magic, Ice Palace, as well as the ice magic on Arendelle Castle, our team really spent 3 years just in R&D, studying all the ice textures and what material to use. So on the Ice Palace, we have installed 200 crystals at different facades on the ice columns, so that during different time of the day when the sun shine on it, actually the crystal will sparkle as if it's like the Ice Palace comes to life too.
we won't name the brand of crystals
Yeah,
that
we
we
won't.
used, but you just think of what brand that
Yeah.
could be.
Yeah, what is popular in Europe?
Yeah. And what's really nice here as you approach the clock tower, as Amanda said, is we have all the architecture here, beautiful view to the coast also, but keeping the building a little away from the clock tower so that it opens up to that view to the Ice Palace, to the North Mountain, because that is the key destination in the ride. So it's kind of nice to see the Ice Palace when you look to your left, walk through the clock tower, and then make your actually way to Elsa's Ice Palace on the ride itself.
That's
You want to talk a little about the story decision to make the entrance to the ride through the clock tower and then put the Arendelle Castle off to the side where it's visible but not actually accessible.
Absolutely. So I'll talk about the castle first. When the project started, the decision to rebuild or extend the Hong Kong Disneyland Castle was not made yet. And as you know, the Anaheim Castle that this castle was based on is not the tallest castle. Our castle is directly behind the castle, right? You can actually, from Main Street, you can see our Ice Palace a little bit, but our Arendelle Castle sits directly behind the castle. What I didn't want is our castle to dominate the real castle. You can't do that. It is the main castle, the park, that one is sacred. So afterwards, the decision was made to extend the castle. I think it would still have been a little risky to make our castle much taller than it is today. Today, it sits around the same height as the castle of Anaheim. It's around the same size. But it is forced perspective, right? There are the doors on the side of the main gate are actually like this tall only. So, and the nature of the Arendelle Castle is that it's tall, but it's also very wide. So another thing that I was playing with as I designed the land, so if I make the castle accessible, I need to start with the gatehouse. That's where you go through, and then everything grows from there. Because you need to have the feeling, okay, well, I'm going to actually enter the thing. And that makes the castle, since the Arendelle Castle is very wide, it takes up a lot of space. And I opted for, so this is reason 2, I opted for a little more diversity of places in the Kingdom of Arendelle. So to really have a secondary part of the land with the forest and our village, and then having the castle more as a beautiful scenic backdrop rather than to go in it. And so we have the height of the castle, and then the forced perspective, and I think that's it. So, and then your second question: why is this tower?
Why is it the entrance?
The entrance. So earlier I mentioned having sort of like these tall elements leading you, so like
the weenie, yes.
the weenies, yes.
They will know that term.
And you know the term. So in the first movie, there's the scene with the clock, with Anna and Hans dancing in front of it. However, they never showed what the tower actually looked like. Then, when Frozen Fever came out, they actually showed what the clock looked like, the clock tower, the whole tower. And I thought, okay, well, that's an iconic structure. This could be at the end of the street and be our entrance to the e-ticket. So that's how that came to be.
Yeah. Naturally draw guest flow into the attraction.
It's also really nice that it chimes at night or during the whole day, and at night it glows, so it kind of looks like Big Ben. The disc with the
With the clock.
with the numbers that glows at night. So it's also at night a beautiful magnet to kind of like lure you to the end of the streets. And yeah, just makes for a great entry. So Frozen Ever After in Hong Kong is a feast of recognition and surprises probably for you guys, because there's a lot here that we use that is the same or feels the same or is similar, but it's either placed completely different, it's longer, it's bigger, it's smaller. So these types of stonework and hallways are also present when you enter Frozen Ever After in Epcot. It's just that it's really small in Epcot, and now we extended it because we didn't have the restrictions of the building getting only so much queue inside. So now we have a lot longer queue for Frozen Ever After. Now we're currently in the conditioned parts, or in the covered part, and now we are actually walking into the conditioned part of the queue. So again, these windows, Epcot Frozen Ever After has one of these windows, but now in the new version we have, I think, like 8 or so. So yeah, everything just got a little bit more grown. Let's call it maybe a little bit more mature in the new version. Because these windows with these orange and blue patterns, there's one of them in Epcot. And now we have multiple. So we're in the ice office here. Again, story conceit for the queue is same as in Epcot. We have the ice office.
Yeah. And as a tradition, right? Imagineering, we love to put Easter egg here and there. And one of our creative reviews during the TCP wall review, we actually saw a salamander walking by during that review. So our theme finishes carver, to commemorate that review, he actually carved out a salamander in that corner. If you can look it up there in that corner under the wood theme. There are actually 2 on this wall, so you can spot the other one.
The other one is hard to see.
Yeah,
though,
that's
but
a little bit harder to see. But it's somewhere on here.
it's over there.
Yeah.
In the shade.
Yeah. Another tradition at Imagineering, we always love to celebrate the contributions from the team. So we have included our names of the team members on this record of deliveries to Christoph.
Originally in the Epcot ride, in the queue, I wanted to have ice blocks in the ice office of Christoph and Sven, and we had space issues, so we couldn't really make it work there, but it made its way into the queue of the Hong Kong Frozen Ever After. And there's some chilled carrots for Sven in there as well.
Yeah.
We'll briefly walk in here before we go on the ride. This is a part of the queue that reminds you a little bit also of the one in Epcot with the maple, but again, situated differently. But yeah, really charming part of the queue. We have the trellis with the wisteria, the little force respected village in the background, and then the maple, little lanterns. But in Epcot, the station is a little boat dock, a fishing dock. For the new version of Frozen Ever After, we thought more of like a royal boat house. So we're gonna turn around now and then go into the royal boat house. And then you'll see the new station of Frozen Ever After.
How many minutes of queue time is inside?
Inside, it's probably roughly between 45 minutes an hour of queue.
In terms of theoretical hourly capacity, how does this compare to the Epcot version?
There's a lot more
Okay.
than Epcot.
What is the boats? How many?
16 per boat.
Is that the same as Epcot?
No. That's Epcot on average probably gets 8 to 10.
I was going to say they
yeah.
much smaller.
Yeah.
Okay. So
The ride system is completely new. It still does the same sort of like tricks, if you will, but it's a completely new ride system. And like I said, making it a little bit more mature and making sure that the capacity is also improved. So here we're gonna go into the station. There's a nice reveal, like another sort of like open air area with the lanterns. So yeah, this looks very different from Epcot. Okay.
The ride are there any Easter eggs inside the ride that we should look for?
Oh, good question.
Or is there any elements that you were particularly proud that you plussed from the Epcot version?
Yeah, well, I think separation of scenes I'm happy with.
Pacing.
Yeah, for example, between the first two scenes, when Olaf and Sven greet you, and then the troll scene, those are really tight in Epcot. And then leaving the troll scene in Epcot with the pop-up troll, all of that is kind of like separated here, and it creates moments that are a little like reset moments, I call them. So you have the scene, you kind of like float, and then the new scene sort of like starts, and I think it gets a little bit of a better pacing, if you will. So I'm really happy with that. Our Let It Go scene is it's just a little stronger here than I think it is in the original. We also exchanged some of the different types of effects. So yeah, and our drop is also more intense than it is in Epcot.
You noticed
that? You noticed that, yeah?
Really rough.
Yeah.
I think
We
it
were
was
only
just,
riding
I think
one
it was
version
empty
from
boat because we rode it with a
Epcot.
big boat and it was way
It was
there,
like painful.
Oh.
I think it's expecting what you're expecting.
Mhm.
Well, it's kind
Yeah,
of got
Epcot is very
double
shallow.
Yeah.
It's almost double the drop
It's
here
fun, it's
than
really
Epcot.
Mhm.
Yeah. And we added the language integration here that some of the characters will speak in Cantonese, like Olaf and some of the kids' trolls, just to cater and address the local needs too.
Is the ride length a little longer here?
It is. It's
Yeah, it is.
actually 1.5
And-
minutes longer than Epcot.
Oh wow.
Mhm. Epcot is almost 5 minutes. This ride is 6 minutes and 45 seconds. Next to Hans Christian Andersen in the shop, you saw maybe already the toy soldier, the Stadtfestin toy soldier on the exterior. That's a fairy tale that he wrote. Fantasia 2000 made a section of that fairy tale, and he falls in love with a ballerina. So we all know that the Snow Queen that Frozen is loosely based off was written by Hans Christian Andersen. So that was a little homage to that offer, and it seemed fitting to have a toy soldier as the sort of like symbol to the Arendelle toy shop.
Yeah.
So kind of combined all these things together, and it works.
And
So,
we
yeah.
put a book, the Snow Queen book, actually in the queue inside FEA in the ice office. So you can look out for that next time you go there.
So a really charming shop, the little toy chandeliers. Again, trying to keep the spaces relatively small so that the spaces actually fit with the scale of the architecture, and you feel comfortable in them. So I think it's and the color again, graying them down. Every casework here is a different color, but when you look around, nothing stands out, and that's because all the colors are kind of like muted down, and then it starts to blend.
Let's head to the far side. There are more Easter eggs for you guys.
After the opening.
We can go down this way
Yeah,
to show
easy.
you the Snow Queen name of the book.
Now we're there.
Yeah, so here normally you would only have this boat and the other boat
Mhm.
in the lake, and then there's like the small rowing boat at the end, and then you would have like the free view towards the coaster, which actually looks beautiful when you then see the train ride by. Of course, for the opening, we need a little bit of presence, of course.
So on Anna's bowl, we have included Snow Queen, the name on there as well. That's a little Easter egg. And to answer your question just now that about any projection shows that we're planning, there are conduit that we have already put in. So in the future, for seasonal events, there are capability to put in a projection show or any other water show as well. Yeah. So after the grand opening, there are plans to still celebrate like Christmas or the harvest season in autumn as well. That in Scandinavia people would celebrate. So we have been working with the entertainment team to talk about that.
Here's that sort of like that great sort of like parallax that's going on when you go over the bridge, and you see sort of like the castle and the mountains in the front work with the mountains in the back. And the cool thing about actually related to the mountains, obviously the real mountains are much taller than our North Mountain here. And you can see that when you enter the park and you see the North Mountain like against the Lantau Mountains. But when you're in Arendelle, the North Mountain is actually the highest peak of the lands. You know, it's the highest mountain in the movie, in the Kingdom of Arendelle. And when you're inside of Arendelle, here proper, then the North Mountain actually visually is the tallest mountain. So here we have a nice, you know, the land is like a U shape, as you can see, of where people can walk. So here we have a nice viewing of obviously the stage again, but we have nice viewing towards the village. You have this beautiful, especially when all the lights go on at night, it reflects in the water, and a really close up, sort of like off-board watching area for the coaster, when kids and their parents or brothers and sisters, grandma is riding the ride, but you have people that don't want to ride the rides, then this is a great spot to sort of stand here and wave at them. The train will actually approach when it comes out of the cave and really approach this area, so you can really interact with people that are on the train. So it's really fun. All right. And speaking of Wandering Oak and sliding sleighs, let's go inside
Yeah, let's
the queue.
go right there. It wasn't released yet at the time. So when we're building the land itself, we're trying to also integrate the Frozen 2 IP. So as you can see, there are different Easter eggs, like Bruni is at the Troll Meadow area. So we're trying to add in some of those Frozen 2 characters in, just to make it more relevant to all our guests too. So you can see it. Yeah. Let's and walking into the forest area and into the attraction. So you can see the sizes. We actually use Christoph's shoe to measure it, and actually I printed it here in the concrete. Yeah.
So we arrive at Wandering Oaken's cabin, the cabin from the film, which is the entry to our youngster coaster. Now Hong Kong had two coasters already, Grizzly Gulch and Space Mountain. Two wonderful attractions and wonderful experiences, but you know, aimed at a slightly older audience than our younger kids. So it made sense to get an attraction in the mix for the park that also is suitable for our younger guests. So it didn't really have a step-in coaster, if you will. And that is what Wandering Oaken's Sliding Sleighs is going to provide. It actually has quite some oomph, if you will, and some G-forces, but it's suitable for you know, for younger guests, and it has a fun story conceit, right? Wandering Oakens, we all know he's an entrepreneur. It's Summer Snow Day, so he's chiming into that that celebration and trying to lure guests from Arendelle to the forest and ride his Summer Snow Day sleigh slide. And with the help of his friends, Olaf and Sven, he's operating today the place. So it's, you know, a fun, quirky ride. We asked Christoph Beck, the original composer of the score of the music, to expand a 10-second bit in a demo track for the movie that was related to Wandering Oakens, and made a 6-minute version of that song. And what it kind of does is it creates a sort of like an earworm that is similar to you know, Pirates and Hana Mansion. I really wanted the music of this particular ride to have that same reaction to people when they ride it over and over, as this ride is going to be here for a long time, that when you hear the music, you know, the fans here at Hong Kong Disneyland, when they hear it, they immediately associate it with this ride. So, and I think it's going to do that. You know, when you stand in the queue for a little bit, it's catching on.
Yeah.
What's
So,
the youngest age then that can ride this?
It's-
or
well,
ride
it's
the
a height,
height
yeah,
limit of
95
95
centimeters.
yeah.
But Grizzly Gulch and Space Mountain are, I think, 120.
Yeah.
So it's considerably lower. So I think, yeah, you have to be like this big for Space Mountain.
And there's no height limit for Frozen Ever After ride here.
So first we get into the cabin itself. Sometimes Wandering Oakens will actually make an appearance behind the counter. Now he has a little sign there that says that he's in the sauna. But he will put a lantern on top of this when he's behind the counter.
Yes.
And he'll greet people every now and then when he's here at work.
And of course you see Lucafish here.
Have to
That's
try the
awesome.
lutefisk.
Yes.
It's the best in Arendelle.
And the wood carved trolls up there on the shelf, and the swimsuit, exactly like the movie that we're trying to replicate.
And the Cold Remedy from Frozen Fever, the short, where he sings that is his own invention, when he sort of like comes out of this yellow wagon and he points at Elsa, who has a cold, that he has this medication. And that actually sparked the idea to do a Wandering Oakens attraction. Because when I was sort of like concepting the land and what can all be part of Summer Snow Day, when the short was out, like, you know, when he's inventing stuff, he has this entrepreneurial spirit. Maybe he's inventing an attraction to lure people to the forest and chime in, also financially, into the celebrations. So that was sort of like the spark for doing an attraction based on Wandering Oakens and expand sort of like his story.
So in Hong Kong, we have a very humid weather, so we have a lot of different insects and also living creatures. So similar to the salamander you just saw at FEAQ, we also had another insect flying by when we had our creative review. So on there, our carver actually carved in a moth in the oaken cabin as a little Easter egg for our guests, and also to commemorate our creative review as well.
And I first thought it was real.
Yeah, it looks very real.
Yeah, because it wasn't plants. So I was, you know, they pointed it out like, hey, there's a moth in here, a big moth. And I was looking, wow, it's like, that's amazing. There's use here in Hong Kong.
Yes.
And then I
And
realized
look at that level
it was
of
fabricated.
craftsmanship by our team. Yeah. Maybe
So here we go into the covered queue area. It has a nice sort of like sea or vista that you can only get from the coaster, with nice interaction between the train passing by and then seeing the castle in the backdrop. So that's here. So I think this will look really nice, especially if the planting matures a little bit. It's like nice vistas, and it's really fun to see the train ride by here, as we will see any second now.
and this is where another Bruni is residing here. Yeah.
I'm a bit of a coaster nerd. What's the manufacturer for this?
Big home.
Yeah.
Good old Dutch engineering.
So we have the oaken sauna scene here, like same as Epcot, but we have added 3 Cantonese lines for Oaken who have picked up Cantonese in Hong Kong. So if you wait long enough here, you can hear also 3 different Cantonese lines from him too. Waiting guests.
I'll be out in a minute. Oh, delivery purchase. Free lutefisk.
So design-wise, the door is pretty similar to the one in Epcot, but the setting, of course, completely different. In Epcot, he's in the small cabin that's in the square. So yeah, it was kind of fun to play with, you know, taking him out of the Frozen Ever After queue and then create this whole attraction around him. There's 5 sequences, and there's probably about a minute in between. If he has spare time, he likes to like wood carve. So that's that column that you see there. He's still working on it, but he's wood carving the trolls out of a big wood support to hold up the building. In reality, for the coaster nerds, this is hiding a coaster support.
Right column.
I would never guess that.
And
That's his
here we see a Wandering Oaken spot process. So we are thinking of ideas, what to do, what would be a good idea, what wouldn't work. Obviously, this idea was not the brightest, but this idea worked, and this is the one that made it true. And that's what you actually see when you ride the ride at the bottom of the lift hill. We have a really cute, kind of like dark ride style scene at the very bottom of the lift hill that implies that the sleigh trains are being propelled up to the top of the mountain, and then gravity does the rest.
And there are different sleigh design as well. Of course, the woodlock doesn't really work, or the crate and barrel on the left. And finally, Oaken landed on the beautiful sleigh that you are seeing now.
The trains are really beautiful. I think they're, they look very elegant. They're almost like Rolls Royces with the beautiful padding, and but they have this very nice exterior. And adding the like blades at the bottom to make them look like sleighs really added a lot of character to them, and it's great to see them sort of like slide over the track.
They look really nice. I really like the front of it.
Yeah. So
There's also a map.
there's also it's Wandering Oak is kind of like drawing the track layout in the mountain behind the cabin.
Is it the actual layout?
It's roughly what it represents.
And there is a hidden Mickey in this attraction. So pay attention when you are actually returning back to the low and low area, you may spot it.
Yeah, and actually,
It's
since
the
we're here
Playhouse
now,
in the
arriving at Playhouse in the Woods, which is a wonderful experience, the coaster's actually riding around this facility. So there's three things in this facility that's hidden by the rockwork. There is the restrooms there, area development restrooms, and then there's the Playhouse in the Woods facility, and the lift hill actually goes on the backside up behind this space, then over it, and then goes towards the water. And then the station is on the other side of the Playhouse in the Woods. So it's one facility, quite complex actually with all the spaces and how the queue works. But yeah, it's all like massaged into one building, and then the rockwork kind of hides the concrete construction, if you will. Yeah.
And the ride system is working really well that you can't really hear any noises inside Playhouse in the Woods.
Yeah.
That has been our biggest worry for 2 years. But it turns out it's perfect. Like, you can't
Yeah,
really
you don't
hear
really
it
notice
at
it
all.
when you actually see the show in Playhouse in the Woods. It's where you hear it, so like the low vibrations now, right? When you hear the trains sort of go by, but in the space, it's hardly noticeable. So we're really happy about that. And speaking of that space, this is Playhouse in the Woods. This is our like entertainment. There's a lot of entertainment in the land. You know, you've already seen Elsa and Anna roaming around, Kristoff and other offerings. But this is sort of like our dedicated facility where we have a beautiful show going on, and it kind of runs like an attraction, so back to back. And we call this Playhouse in the Woods. So what the backstory is that when Anna and Elsa were young, and Elsa already had her magical powers, she had to keep them secret, because in the beginning of the movie they're playing at night secretly, and then during the coronation, when Elsa, lets it go, everybody is completely in shock. So the thought process was like, okay, well, maybe her parents made this playhouse, this play space deep inside the forest, that they could bring Elsa during the day. She could kind of express herself in this closed off space, and then take her back to the castle again, where she was told to, compose herself and not get caught. Now it's happily ever after times. It's summer snow day. There's no need to keep it a secret space anymore. So everybody's invited to come over and visit the Playhouse in the Woods, her childhood play space.
Yeah.
So that's the story conceit for the show.
Yeah. So with that, I think all of you have seen the show too. So we will end our tour here today. Any other questions from you all?
What is surrounding this land on either side? Is there any room for future expansion to this land?
We have room for a little bit of expansion over there within the borders of this land. And then there's space beyond the land for maybe something else. And then here it's hugged, of course, by Small World. I will say for Small World in Hong Kong Disneyland was located in a cul-de-sac. So that meant you had to walk all the way underneath the train tracks, ride Small World, and then walk all the way back again. Now we have connected it with our land with a secondary entrance. So it will be good for circulation for the park, but also very good for Small World, because it's much easier to kind of walk with Small World, ride Small World, enjoy your tour, go into World of Frozen, or vice versa. So I think for Small World it will be really good that we connected those two.
Okay.
All right.
Then
Well, it was a
good.
pleasure to
Nice-
have you guys over.
Nice seeing you all and be able to show you around here.
Yeah, we hope you have a good time.